Hey y'all, welcome to my channel. This is going to be a DIY build series where I go through and 4x4 my 98 E350 with a 7.3 liter Power Stroke diesel engine in it. I'll be using this 05, it's an 05 or 06, one of those Super Duty Dana 60 axle onto the front. It'll be a coil spring conversion, and I'll be using a couple of other junkyard parts and then doing some fabrication for all the suspension and control arms and all that good stuff under there. So like it, subscribe it, follow along, and yeah, we'll get started. Name of the game for today is going to be disassembly. So this will be the first video in the series when I just start taking everything out we're not going to need anymore from there. So I think the disassembly plan here is going to be pull the drag link out of the pitman arm first, disconnect the sway bar from the frame on both sides, then we're going to pull the 3 bolts out of both sides for the radius arm frame brackets there, and then pull these bolts out on both of the TTB arms. I think that's what they're called. TTB arms here and here, and then this bracket, I think I'm going to have to probably just cut off, because I know right here to clearance the pumpkin on that Dana 60, I'm going to have to notch out this cross member right here. But yeah, so that's the plan. I don't think it'll be too much disassembly wise, but I'm going to set up the GoPro and get started, and then if I get stuck anywhere or hit any weird stuff, I'll be sure to let you guys know. All right, so I'm having a little bit of trouble getting this drag link off, so I had to take my pitman arm puller and modify it a little bit. And you can see right here, I welded these 2 tabs on it to try and narrow that gap a little bit. The gap it was made with is just a hair too wide, and it just would not grip it. So I'm gonna try this now and see if I can have a little bit better luck getting this guy popped off. So these shocks are kind of a pain in the ass to get out on these things, but I cut myself a little access port last time I had to change them out. If yours won't have that, the easiest way to get to it is either to take it off from the bottom, pry it out, drop everything, and then spin it out while putting a wrench on the top side, or come in with a longer wrench or set of clamps from this side to grab the top of the shock. And then what I'm doing on the back side, you can see that box wrench right there, twist that nut off the top of the shock. So right here you can see where I'm reaching up inside past this wiring harness, up under the fender, other side of the frame, to get a hold of the shock nut. The nut on this lower shock to radius arm bolt is an 18mm size. caliper bolts are also 21 millimeters, and I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you already know how to take off your brake calipers, but just in case you don't, there's a top upper bolt right here and there's a lower bolt down there. Both of these pop off and release the actual caliper assembly from the wheel hub assembly right here. So pop both of these off, both of these bolts come out, and then I'll use one of these holes right here and some wire to just kind of hang this caliper up out of the way. Okay, now we're gonna break loose these bolts on each of these I-beams right here, and then the nut is on the back side of this cross member, and then over here on the front, not cross member. They're 21 millimeters in size on this one. One other point to note, I'm leaving the jack stand to support this rotor just slightly under there after I loosened and took the shock off. I still haven't touched the frame bracket for the radius arm yet, so it's not gonna all just fall down on me, but just as an extra precaution, because I'm not sure, you know, how much travel this bushing back here is actually gonna give it once it's free from this bolt over here. I just put the jack stand up under there under the rotor so it doesn't hopefully unexpectedly fall, at least all at once. And I should be able to catch it if it just falls, you know, slowly and partially from there. So, quick tip. All right, so I've got both of these nuts off, but what I didn't account for was when I started forcing this bolt out, the weight of the radius arm, still having all the other steering stuff weighing off it, is starting to turn it just a little bit. So basically the nut is just jammed up in there. So what I'm gonna have to do is take everything else off, then come back under here with my jack, put the jack right here to push up on it, relieve the pressure, pop the bolt out, everything should be off. We should be in business. If you had a second jack, that'd be super handy. Right now, you could just put second jack right here, lift it up, pop the bolt out, and then go about taking that frame side radius arm bracket off, which was the order I originally had planned to do things. But what I'm gonna do now is pause here, radius arm frame bracket comes off, everything else that's left, that'll be everything else that's left except for fishing this bolt out on that side, which we'll need to get this jack for to work free. Okay, so now that I got that side off, I'm going to do the passenger side. Good part about this side is it's much easier since we've got all this space up here for the shock access. So that's a lot easier to drop off right there. And then from there, it's the same thing. Pull the caliper, I'm gonna hang it around the spring up here, pull the radius arm bolts out, and then pull the I-beam bolt out. I already took the nut off of that. Then that should be it for main component removal. That's it. We got everything pulled out that can unbolt at this point. Next steps for the axle will be to, well, first I'm going to put it under here, start getting some alignment measurements, see how it's going to impact my frame bracket plan, control arm design, make sure all that's going to work. And then I'm going to have to take these I-beam brackets off. This one I think can stay. I don't think it's going to actually be in the way. That one I'll either have to, if I can get these bolts off, just take the whole thing off, or I might just chop the whole thing clean off so it clearances that big old 1-ton pumpkin over there. But yeah, that's it. Super straightforward disassembly. All in all, this will take you, if you got all the tools, space, you're ready to roll, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours if you're going real slow. Yeah, pretty straightforward so far. Let's see, if I come around the front right here, you can see a little bit better what I'm talking about. So you can see where this pumpkin is going to contact right here between this that has to go, and then we'll have to notch right here right above where this pumpkin sits. I was curious if I was going to be able to just slide it forward towards the front of the van a little bit, but you can see in there, this pumpkin is just, let's see if I can get it better. This pumpkin's just way too long. I mean, I'd have to slide it forward probably close to a foot for it to make a difference, and I'd still probably have to end up trimming this thing. So we're gonna leave it where it is. You can see the coil buckets line up pretty nice. This is just bent from the brake line. That's not actually supposed to be there like that, but you can see anyway. Coil bucket on this side, pretty well lined up, which is good news. And then if we go around to the other side, coil bucket on this side is also nicely lined up. So, as expected, I'm not actually going to have to do anything with the springs. I'm going to be able to reuse the upper coil mounts as well, where they're on the frame, and I'm also going to be able to use right here where the factory shock mount hole comes through, comes straight down to the factory shock mount on the axle location right here. So as long as I get the travel and length right, I should also be able to just source an OEM shock that'll bolt right up. None of this is news for anyone that's seen any of the other van conversions, but figured it would be helpful to kind of see one placed under here up close with hopefully some halfway decent shots. So now I'm going to take a measurement essentially from the radius arm bracket on the axle all the way back to my existing transmission cross member. Another assumption I'm playing off of is, since I got the same model transmission from a 7.3 pickup truck, the E4 OD, I am not going to have to move, or will very slightly have to move, if anything, this transmission cross member, and I'm hoping I can just reuse it and it'll just bolt right in and it'll be super simple. Oh, nice. But yeah, so we're going to go from cross member, radius arm mount, grab that measurement, and then that's going to be sort of the first measurement I'll take to get an idea of where we're going to need to set our control arm length for this side on the bottom. So something else I'm thinking about while I'm under here, you can see where the factory radius arm mounts right here. The frame is fully boxed in up through there. It's not boxed in back here as we get to where this transmission cross member is, so that's going to have to be something that is probably addressed. I'm actually now thinking maybe I just build a new transmission cross member, put my link brackets right in here, and try and clear the entire frame, because you got all this extra space up here where, you know, you'd have clearance for days to run a set of control arms. That might actually be a pretty slick way to do it. And then you got a solid 4 foot lower radius arm right there. All right, so we got the engine cross member notched out now. Nothing crazy on how much material I tried to take out from here, and I didn't really follow any specific measurements other than you can see this cutout right here. You know, it's about 1.5 inches below that. And then I started it right where it bent up down at the bottom. I also just cut the I-beam bracket that was existing instead of trying to take it out, because it has these this rivet up at the top that I figured was going to be a pain in the ass, and then there's these two lock nuts that are way up in there, and really it's not a big deal one way or another. It's not really in the way. So yeah, that's the plan for right now.